Hi, everyone. This is Jenny Westerkamp. I am the founder of All Access Dietetics, here today to talk about 5 things dietetic students need to know. Now, this whole webinar is inspired by talking to hundreds of future dietitians around the country on free 15-minute coaching calls for the past few years and realizing that a lot of the same questions keep coming up, and you need to understand some of the basics and some of the strategies on what it takes to become a dietitian. So I'm going to go through all of that today. I'm going to talk about the 5 things that you need to know, and then I'm going to wrap up with a quick pep talk for you, because you all know you need a pep talk now going through this process. So I got that for you. Let's dive right in. Number 1 is researching the field. So this question or this topic comes up when you're kind of like early on in your journey as a dietetic student and you're trying to figure out what it is you're interested in and where to get experience and everything. So, dietetics is a very exciting field. I think the possibilities are really limitless. What you might learn in school is just the tip of the iceberg of all the different specialties that you can practice in as a dietitian. For example, I am a sports dietitian, so I work for the Chicago Bulls and I help members of the team, with their different nutrition goals and with their supplements and injury protocols and pregame and postgame shakes and all sorts of things to help them perform at their best. And that's, one of hundreds of different jobs that you can have in the field. My suggestion for you is to really explore and dive into your future field, because it is going to make you more passionate and excited about what is possible. If you're not super jazzed about clinical, or if you don't think food service is a good fit, or like community you thought was good, but maybe not the best fit for you, then there's a lot more out there. So you want to do a couple things. These are some suggestions that I have given in the past. First, I want you to explore the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. I want you to explore their dietetic practice groups. These are all the different specialties, and even within these practice groups, they have subspecialties that can really narrow down on all the different areas. So you'll have things like the hunger and environmental nutrition practice group. You'll have nutrition entrepreneurs. You have one for sports and cardiovascular. You have clinical and the healthy aging for people that are working in long-term care and other areas. So there's a lot of different things, and you want to look at that whole list to get a good start at what is possible, and then dive into the different practice group websites to dig even deeper. I think too, I will tell students, you can go to the Dietetic Practice Group website, and then you can look at the executive committee of that group and then search those dietitians on LinkedIn or even on Google to see what their career paths were like to get to that specialty. Because you can start in a lot of different areas, you can explore, you can try different things, but you can sort of catch the different trends and what it might take, for example, to become a sports dietitian. Like, what was their first job in that field? What was their second job? What was their third job to get to, where they are now? So the executive board is the place to start to just get some examples of practicing dietitians in those areas. Then you can use Instagram for searching and finding people that are on there. A lot of entrepreneur dietitians are on Instagram, but not always. There's plenty that also work for companies. And so you can search the registered dietitian hashtag. And then when you do that, you will be able to see similar hashtags that come up and then search those as well. And that, again, is just another way to find and see what people are doing in the field. You can Google local dietitians and read their LinkedIn profiles. This is something, this approach is what I actually did to find my mentor, which we'll talk about later here. But I just searched Chicago dietitians in Google. I was looking for dietitians to work with, and Julie Burns was a sports dietitian that came up, and then I was able to go to her LinkedIn profile and see more about her, and also her website, and to see what she did and what she had done in her career. Now, with Googling local dietitians, you can just think about it like trying to find a dietitian to work with if you were a patient. There's directories, there's websites that will list dietitians in the area. There's even on the academy, there's something called Find a Dietitian, which you could just use that search as well to find local dietitians in your zip code or in zip codes surrounding you and find them that way. I think the more people you read about and you learn about, the more you're going to understand the field and the trajectory that you can have in it. Finally, there's this really cool website that I don't think they do any new interviews, but they have interviewed hundreds of dietitians, and it's called whatrdsdo.com. I think her name's Stephanie Langdon, I'm pretty sure. But she is the one that conducted those interviews, and again, very diverse pathways and different things that dietitians have done in our world to impact the lives of so many people. There are so many possibilities. I can't stress that enough. And you can change your mind a lot. So for me, when I was a student, I remember I had initially got into food science and a little bit of nutrition because I wanted to be a food, like a food flavor scientist. I wanted to invent the next flavor of Doritos. Like that's 100% true. I was a biology major. I decided to switch to food science, and at my school at University of Illinois, it was food science and human nutrition. So I switched my major, and I ended up finding, through those classes that nutrition was a better fit for me. But then I was like, I still don't know what to do in nutrition. So I Googled. I didn't have Instagram at the time, but I went around LinkedIn. I looked on websites. I found dietetic practice groups, and I was able to land on a couple different areas of dietetics that I was interested in just as a student. So I thought, okay, I might want to do clinical research. And even within that, I'm really interested in oncology and nutritional genomics, which at the time was sort of a budding field. I mean, it's still growing, like personalized genetic and genomic nutrition is still growing right now, but I was interested in that. And then I found Julie Burns, who got me interested in sports nutrition and even more functional nutrition and integrative medicine type approaches in nutrition. So I was collecting all of this, and then I had long-term care experience and everything. And I was learning and researching the field along the way and trying to talk to as many dietitians as possible so that I knew what the possibilities were. Because by the time I was getting into my internship, I actually then wanted to do public relations and writing and communications. And I explored that as well and talked to a lot of different dietitians in the food industry about that. And just, again, researched and kept doing that. And I really haven't stopped, even as a more veteran dietitian now with over 10 years of experience. I still am researching and figuring out like what else is there to do and to keep exploring and finding all these other possibilities. All right, that was number one. Number two is creating a networking game plan. So now you find all of these great dietitians, they're all so inspiring, and now you have to figure out how to network and game plan with them. So the first thing is, besides, I guess, the research that you do on your own, in addition to that, you want to also think of people to connect with to start to build your network. So you think about your classmates, which are your future colleagues, your coworkers, if you have a job at a local hospital or if you work at a food bank or whatever on your campus, connecting with those people, professors, parents, friends, friends' parents, parents' friends. And I say that I put that in there specifically because I've heard a lot of students that get jobs through either their friends' parents or their parents' friends. And also alumni from your program. And that comes in handy if you ever want to use LinkedIn and try to filter by people that graduated from your school that you're at. That's always a great way to start up a conversation and say, hello, fellow University of Illinois graduate or whatever it is. That's your angle to create a little rapport and start a conversation from that. I know I get really excited when I hear from University of Illinois alumni. It's really fun to kind of joke with them about the different classes or the teachers that we had or whatever it was. So it's always a nice connection point when you're trying to make or build your network. So from there, you have this list. I like to put it in a tracker or in like a Excel spreadsheet, keep it really organized, so that you can always be following back up with these people and, just not letting anything fall through the cracks and really take your networking game seriously, because it is really important to do. So then you have the second part, which is getting a mentor. So now you have all these different leads, you've done your research, and you want to try to get a mentor or multiple mentors in this. And there could be a lot of different goals for having the mentor, whether that's someone in a specific area of dietetics that you want to work in, someone that you just think knows a lot about a lot of different areas of dietetics. Or someone that you can work with. And I like this idea of when you go to try to find a mentor that you can have that can guide you and help you and give you advice, you want to pitch it like it's a win-win situation. So you pitch yourself as really a go-giver. I get so many emails from students, and a lot of times they'll just say, hey, I would love to pick your brain about your sports nutrition career, or I would love to shadow you and see what and learn from you, like what you do in a day, or like how you broke into the field of dietetics, of sports dietetics. And I remember just saying and thinking, if you pitched it to me like it was a win-win situation, and that there was something that you could give of value to me, I would be more likely to want to give value back. And it's not that I don't love helping students that don't give me anything, because I do that all the time. But I can just tell you, as a busy business owner, or you have dietitians out there that are very busy with their own jobs, it is easier for them to say yes and to help you if they know it can be a win-win situation. And again, I'm sure there's people that are helping people with no value being added back. But I think if you want a deeper relationship, if you want more time from the dietitian, there has to be some giving there as well. So it's really coming from a value standpoint, like what value can you give to the dietitian? So for example, if I'm reaching out to a sports dietitian and I'm a student, I might say something like, hi, sports dietitian, your website and your Instagram have just been so inspiring to me. I found that this is an area that I really want to practice in, and I want to work under a sports dietitian and really dive in and get to know all the ins and outs of what it takes to become a great sports dietitian. I would love to be able to help you in your business. I'm very skilled at Canva and social media, and I can make handouts and do any behind the scenes work that you have for your clients to make your life easier, in exchange for just immersing myself in a sports dietetics experience. Is this something you would be interested in talking about further? So you come at it like you are here to get the experience, but also to give value to the sports dietitian and make it easier for them to say yes. So there's your example of how you might go about that. When you think about other areas, I do think mentors, you can see them in any different type of dietetics field. So if you have a clinical dietitian, you might ask if they have additional projects that they need help with that you could be working on, any back burner projects, anything that from a technology standpoint, if you might have some knowledge around that you could help them just organizing spreadsheets or something that could make their processes better, is what you would want to be pitching. And then from there, like hopefully they will give back once you've given as well. Of course, there's mentorship programs out there. Dietetic practice groups have mentorship programs. There's a website called prerd.org that has ways to match you up with dietitians. Your local dietetics group might have a mentorship program as well. And then I believe there's one out of University of Florida, RD Mentorship. .com, I think is what it's called, and that could also be a way to find a mentor as well, in addition to the researching and the networking that you do. And finally, joining a local dietetics group. So even if you feel overwhelmed by the fact that, you can go on Instagram or LinkedIn and find dietitians all over the country to connect with, and you can do things virtually or have a virtual mentor nowadays. They don't have to necessarily be local. It is good to get involved locally, just especially if you are thinking of getting a job locally or wanting to get a job in a specific organization in your area. So when you join there, you can also ask for local or ask the local association if they need student volunteers and volunteer for events, or if they need help like moderating the next webinar that's going on. If it's virtual, that could be something you could do. And then also you could talk to the leadership team for that association and ask if they have a student membership, or if they want to increase the association student participation, and what projects there might be to help do that. Whether that means starting a student newsletter or putting together a student cookbook for the group, or creating a mentorship program. And that's sort of the next point here. Is that's something I did when I was in Boston for my internship, and I wanted to get involved in the Massachusetts student or the state dietetic association, but then they had a student group as well. So I created, or helped create, a mentorship program between the Student Dietetics Association for Massachusetts and the bigger state Dietetics Association, and got a program in place so that they could make that happen for their members. Now, those are all things that you can explore, and the more you talk to people that are on the executive committee of those groups, the better. You should go to those meetings if they happen, either virtually or in person, and that is really going to open up doors. I know also, I can count so many people who have gotten jobs in their careers later on from their local dietetics group. So you can't underestimate the involvement of getting to know dietitians in your area, having them meet you face to face, and really starting that early as a student. Number 3 is to get 3 types of experience. Now, this comes up a lot because so many people want to know what experience they should get to get matched to a dietetic internship. We're going to talk more about dietetic internships here later on, but I will say that the 3 that I have found to be the most impactful are the following. So you have the foundational experience, which I would consider something under a registered dietitian and something that's similar to what you would find in a dietetic internship rotation. So that would be working in a diet office, working at a long-term care facility, working as a diet aide or diet tech. And then you have things like working in the community at a food bank or WIC, working at a school, helping with school nutrition, or even a private practice, or working for that, or working for an outpatient center, helping as an assistant or even an office manager for a private practice, as well as like food service. So if you work in the food service or diet office of a hospital, or even like a dining center or something like that, where quantity food service, that's all really good. Even your college food service would be helpful because they do actually deal with things like food allergies or special diets or requirements there. So that's also really good experience, similar to a dietetic internship rotation. That's what I would consider, quote, foundational. The second would be a goal area. So when you go to write your personal statement, you will have to talk about your short-term and long-term goals. And what's really important is that you have experience in the goal area that you're going to talk about. My example, I always go back to sports dietetics, since I am a sports dietitian, and I'll say, like, if you want to write that you have interest in becoming a sports dietitian, you need to have experience in sports dietetics. So pretty simple, but I can tell you that there's a lot of students, actually it's with clinical, where they will say their short-term goal is to become a clinical dietitian, but then have never worked in clinical before, which I think there's a disconnect there, and that's not the best strategy, but I'm kind of getting into a little bit too much with the application right now. So anyways, you want to have the goal area, the specialty or the unique area that can help set you apart as well. And then number 3 is leadership. Leadership meaning it could be something within a job that you currently have, where you can be a manager or you can supervise or train other employees. Or it could be something in your nutrition club or a local state dietetics association, or it could be in creating a new group on your campus and trying to just find a problem to solve. That's what I suggest a lot to people, is looking on their campus and figuring out, are there problems to solve? And some sample problems might be like food insecurity on campus or nutrition education on campus. Or, if there's a problem within your club that you need to work on getting more funds for the club or creating more volunteer experiences for the club, like find the problem that you can own and solve, and lead a team to solve that problem. That will show so much about your abilities if you can even create something and create an initiative, because it says a lot about your character, and you'll learn a lot through that experience, and it will prepare you to be a leader in the dietetic internship. I can tell you that that's the top skill that directors tell me that they like to see, is proven leadership from their dietetic interns. So when you go to write that personal statement, if you don't have a good answer, if you can't say leadership is one of your strengths, or you can't include an example of leadership in your personal statement, or answer a question in the interview about leadership, that's going to be, I think, a problem. So that's what you want to be striving to have. I remember I had a coaching client that she was actually president of a leadership council on her campus. And I was like, that is the peak leadership, I think, of possible leadership positions to hold, is to actually be a leader of a leadership council. So pretty funny, but not that you have to do that, but that you have to find an example of doing that. You have to create something to make that happen. And it's not just like you're creating it just for your boosting your resume. You're actually going to learn a lot, I think, about yourself when you put yourself in that situation to be in that confident leadership position. Number 4 is understanding dietetic internships and the application process. This is the fourth thing that dietetic students need to know. Dietetic internships are a whole lot of things. The whole process is really why I started All Access Dietetics back in 2008. I was going through the application process, applying to internships, had just gotten matched, and was realizing that there was not enough support there. Even though I had a great DPD program, there was support, but it still wasn't enough. It was still very stressful. There was a lot to understand on your own, a lot of research that had to be done. And I just thought there has to be an easier way, which is why I started All Access Dietetics. But, to give you the basics right now in this webinar here of dietetic internships, I like to explain that they are sort of that transition between student and professional. So I think we're kind of lucky as a profession to have dietetic internships, and almost all, I think, healthcare practitioners have something like this, whether it's a residency for doctors or clinical rotations for nursing. There's plenty of examples of this that other healthcare practitioners are doing. So it's this nice way to take what you learned in the classroom and apply it in real life. So you have what's called supervised practice in a dietetic internship, and that is where you will go to different sites depending on the program, and you will be practicing under the supervision of a dietitian or a dietary manager, or whoever it is that's the appropriate preceptor for that rotation. And you will learn a lot of things. You will have competencies that you will need to meet, and all of these competencies are the same for every program. So you're going to find that all programs are pretty similar, but not exactly the same. And you will meet all those competencies throughout the supervised practice. You'll get evaluated a lot. You will, be rotating with a lot of different people and having a lot of diverse experiences as a way to prepare you to become an entry-level dietitian. Now, dietetic internships, I say that they are the same cake, different frosting, meaning that the backbone, those competencies are all similar, but the frosting is what makes them all really different. So that could be because of their affiliation. So if they're affiliated with a university versus a hospital versus a corporation, military dietetic internships, WIC internships, Veterans Affairs hospital dietetic internships, those can bring in different elements of the frosting that make them different, as well as the different rotation sites they have and how they're set up. So you'll have standalone dietetic internships, which are just the supervised practice. Then you'll have distance dietetic internships that will be not set up through the program, but are ones where you have to set up your own rotation sites using their requirements specifications, and you can do those in your own area or in multiple areas around the country. What's interesting about distance dietetic internships is you can actually go to different states for different internships. I had a client that wanted to stay with family in different parts of the country and just expand her experience and be able to, okay, go do clinical in California, go do food service in Florida, go do community up in New York, whatever it was. But there's a lot of flexibility with distance dietetic internships from that regard, as well as like with scheduling, there can be some flexibility depending on the program. And of course, if you can't leave your current geographical location, they're a great option as well, because then you can just stay in one spot. Plenty more to say on distance dietetic internships. They become a lot more popular. There's also a lot more spots associated with those programs. Definitely something to look into and to not be afraid of or to rule out just because of the preceptor thing. That could be a whole other webinar on its own, finding preceptors. But yeah, that's a great option and can be a great option for many people. So you have those kind of like standalone internships, but then both of those can also include a master's program. So you can have a distance internship that also has a master's program involved, or just a more traditional dietetic internship with a combined master's program. Some have just graduate credits plus the internship, and some have full degree programs plus the internship. And then we have these new future education model graduate programs. Because of the switch to requiring a master's degree in 2024 for new dietitians, there's a new pathway that includes the master's program plus the supervised practice portion of the requirement to become a dietitian. And then finally, there's individualized supervised practice pathway options, and that is for people that do not get matched to a dietetic internship. They can apply to these what I call ISPs, so ISPPs, and also PhD students that have, or people that have PhDs in nutrition can go through this pathway as well. And they are mostly distance in terms of their setup, but not all of them. I don't know what the breakdown is. I want to say it's like probably a third to 2/3, or maybe about half and half of distance type ISPs and then traditional type ISPs. So just depends on the program. Now, I say all this because, and I present kind of like the basics of it, because really the only way you truly understand the internships, I think, is to go on program websites and see the differences in how they're set up and spend a lot of time like reading through their curriculum, their rotation schedules, and just overall like their admissions requirements and everything. Just going through all the websites, picking like 3 programs from each of these different types of pathways, and then seeing the difference between them. That's how you'll really understand that. It is very confusing. There's this image that they have on the Academy's website that shows all the different pathways, and it's color coordinated, and it's very complex because it honestly depends too on like what other degrees you might have, and like what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish. What type of master's do you want to get? You don't have to get a master's in dietetics, for example, for the 2024 requirement. So then there's options if you don't want to do that. And it's confusing. It's a lot. And so I think just going through we have a DI database, as well as the academy and going through that and trying to just immerse yourself in all the different types to understand the landscape is my best advice to get started with that. So those are the different internships. And then the application process itself, this is typically for the dietetic internships or the ISPs or the combined master's plus dietetic internship programs. But you will go through the process of applying on DICAS, which is the Dietetic Internship Centralized Application System. And that's a centralized application where you will apply to multiple programs. You can pick however many you want to apply to, and then you'll be able to do that application and then submit individual applications through that portal to each program that you're applying to. And then you'll do ranking of the programs you applied to on D&D Digital. That's where you'll put in, okay, I want this program number 1, this 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. And then you will submit that into the computer ranking system. And then you'll have match day. Match day is when you will find out where you got matched. And if you got matched, you'll either see a match or you'll see no match. And if you don't see a match, then you can participate in second round, which is usually about a week later. And that's where they will list any programs that still have openings. And you can also apply to ISPs in the second round. So if you didn't get matched, then ISPs now become an option for you. The deadline for that, or like the timing of how that all works. So typically, if you're graduating and finishing up your DPD classes in like the fall semester, you can apply in that final semester. So that means that you could apply for the September 25th deadline. You would find out if you got matched in November, and then you would start your program in January. So you would graduate in December and then start your program in January. Give or take. I mean, some programs might start a couple weeks later or, usually later, no earlier than January from what I've seen. And then the more popular deadline is for people that might be graduating in May, or just you don't have to be graduating anytime. You could be like working right now and then wanting to apply. But that deadline would be February 15th. So a typical like senior in college that was graduating in May would apply on February 15th. And then they would find out, actually, this is a typo. So it's April match day. And then summer/fall start. So depending on the program, it's either like June, July, August, sometimes September for a start of the program. Now, the two deadlines, I get a lot of questions like which is an easier deadline to apply to. Unfortunately, they've never released statistics that separated the two. I know that there's less programs that are available in the September 25th deadline round, but the February 15th gets way more applicants from what we've seen. So, it's probably pretty even, is my opinion. Now, I'm going to go into a few surprising facts about dietetic internships that I think you need to know, just to kind of wrap up this section. And then we'll have one more topic, which is how to actually be match worthy, how to get into dietetic internships. So some of these surprise facts. Number one, dietetic internships are very competitive and you might not get matched. I think the match rate hovers between 60 and 70%. It's been as low as in the 40s in my time of running this business. And so thankfully the match rate has gone up, but it's still very competitive. And I still think that especially for programs that have fewer spots, like 10 spots or less, and they might get 50, 60, 100 applicants, to me that's very competitive. Like getting your top choice is still hard to do. I think getting any internship has gotten easier, which is great because most people apply to multiple and then they'll maybe get their second choice, third choice, fourth choice. But I think getting into your top choice is still very competitive, and you might not get matched. So that's a very real possibility. Not everyone gets matched. Not everyone gets ranked on a program's list, and then then they're not eligible for a match. So that's the first thing. The second fact is the application process itself can start months, even years before the deadline. We've had coaching clients through our Get Match coaching program that can start like the year before and slowly work through the process of getting that additional experience and learning about the programs, going to open houses, not their senior year, but their junior year, for example, or 1 year out from their application. And, that there's a lot to do. And I say that, I'm sure you've heard that a lot, like start early, start early. It takes a long time, but I'm here to just give you another message that it does take a long time. If want to give it your all and do the best that you possibly can. I mean, can you put together an application in a month or two? Sure, you can do that. I'm sure people have figured out how to do that. It's very stressful. They maybe don't get into the best program for them. And it is what it is. But for me, when we're trying to increase your chances as much as possible, the sooner you start, the better. And our typical time frame for having people start really varies because we have people that sign up for our coaching every month out of the year for different deadlines for either the September or the February deadline. And even people that start for the February deadline before clients that start for the September one. So it's all over the place, but we think between 6 and 12 months before the deadline. And then at least a year or two of understanding the basics before the deadline is really, really important. All dietetic internships meet the same basic requirements, but have unique qualities that can make it a better fit for you. This goes back to the idea that every program has to go through this credentialing process, and they need to be able to prepare you to become an entry-level dietitian and pass that RD exam. So there is going to be a lot of similarity, but when you think about the emphasis of that program, the rotation sites, the structure of that program, the patient population that they're working with, the different extra projects or rotations that they have you do, and what kind of electives you can have or what type of projects you have in those different rotations, all of that can really vary. And even the way the learning is set up or how the structure of the classes plus the internship rotations, like whether that's in the same semester or different, like online learning versus not. All of these things are unique, and you have to decide like what is a better fit for you and for your goals and how you learn. So that's, it's not just like, okay, you can go get any internship. There are a lot of variables involved, and it's something to consider. Now, on the same hand, I will say that if you want to, I'm just going to go back to the sports dietetics example. Like if you want to become a sports dietitian, you don't have to go to an internship that has a sports rotation in it, or has like the sports emphasis. Just know that dietetic internships are meant to set you up for entry-level positions. And as you specialize in your career, you'll be able to, go deeper into a certain specialty like sports dietetics. I don't think I know it's not a make or break situation. I mean, I'm an example of that. I didn't have any sports experience in my internship, and I became a sports dietitian. I had experience outside of that as a student, in my extracurriculars. So that was important, but I didn't have it in my internship. Next fun fact, fun fact. Almost all internships have tuition and fees. Very few have stipends, so you need to prepare financially. This can be a big wake-up call for future dietitians that don't know that you have to pay for a dietetic internship. The VA hospitals, not all of them, because some are combined with masters now, which have tuition, but there are some still that have stipends where they pay you. You can also get an internship with a graduate program and maybe get a graduate assistantship involved. So then you're paid that way. But it's almost always going to be something that you have to pay for. And some programs do not have financial aid. So you want to know this. You want to be prepared financially, have a game plan, and figure this out for you. The thing to point out, I know a lot of people complain about the financial investment, and there's things that can certainly change about the structure of how that goes and how that's paid for. I think with the future model now and having it be connected to a graduate degree, that will help with financial aid, getting financial aid to become a dietitian. So that's great. But just remember that it is still education that you're paying for. You're getting training, and it's similar to going to a class every day, except you're just learning it on the job and getting that training under a dietitian. So there's that. But then there's a lot of creative ways to get the financials in order for this. So whether that means like working in a flexible job, or I know a lot of people that will graduate from college and then they'll work for a year and save up money for the tuition, and then they'll apply. So you don't have to apply straight out of college. So that's another option. And then, looking into the financial aid options that are available, as well as I know some people will take out personal loans or credit cards. Not ideal, but it is an investment in your future and and in your education. So something to be aware of and to start exploring if that's going to be an obstacle for you or something that you have to save up for in order to make happen. There is a lot to know. Use all the resources available to fully understand the application process. That's why I'm here doing these webinars. That's why we have resources to help you through this, because there is a lot to know. And the sooner that you understand the basics, the better off you're going to be. And like doing that research, talking to dietitians, and really immersing yourself so that you feel empowered with that information. I think that's a really important thing to do, and to not wait to learn all of that. All right, moving on to number 5. The final thing that dietetic students need to know is they need to know what it takes to be match worthy. So that means, what are the different things you need to do to show dietetic internship directors that you will be a competent and confident intern in their program. And so with that, I listed out everything that I think directors look for. It doesn't mean you have to have all of these things, but they will be selling points for you. These are pulled from the Are You Matchworthy assessment that we have on our website. It's free, and you can go through and kind of like grade yourself on all these different areas. So the first one is good GPA. Good GPA meaning a lot of different things depending on the program and the type of program. I would say we've had people below a 3.0 that we've still been able to help get matched with our Get Matched coaching, but they just are more limited on their programs that they can apply to. But it's definitely possible. I would say a really great GPA is above a 3.5. A 3.0 to 3.5 usually is matchworthy, but it just depends on the program they're applying to. It also depends on their experience and everything else. GPA is just one slice of the pie, but it is a slice of the pie. It needs to be something that shows directors that you are competent in the DPD courses, in your all of your courses. There's a lot of nuance to this, a lot of stories that I've heard of different GPA reasoning. So for example, if you have someone that had a low GPA from a degree 10 years ago, no, they're not going to care as much about that versus your most recent grades. And then you have people that maybe were college athletes that have a lower GPA, but it was just because of the time demands of being a college athlete that caused that. You have people that go through personal health conditions or family issues or whatever it is, or a death in the family, and they have a low GPA 1 semester or 2 semesters because of it. Then you have to communicate that. So it's not just like this black and white thing of here's the number and then this is the points that you get for that. It's much more complicated, but it is part of the picture. And you do want to do your best to have as good of grades as possible and try to balance your time between both grades as well as extracurricular experience to show you can manage both. But just know the GPA is a big deal. I know one tip I've learned from doing these coaching calls with students around the country is a lot of people will take summer classes as a way to lighten their load in the semester so that they can try to get better grades that way. If that's a possibility for you, great. Not necessary, but just one idea to kind of prioritize GPA. And then graduate degree. When you think about people that are applying to dietetic internships, they might be coming in with a master's degree that, of course, will look good and will be a good thing. It's not that you have to have a master's degree to do that, but or to get matched, but you are going to, I think, get more points from directors for that. And when you think about like applying to, if you're like coming out of college, you don't have a graduate degree, and you go and apply to a dietetic internship, your competition might be filled with people that have master's degrees, whereas going the master's plus internship route, no one will probably have a master's degree that you're competing against for that program. So you just want to think about it and remember that it's a competition, and it might be a little bit like slightly harder for you to get an internship, like a DI only because of that. Not impossible, but just could be harder depending on the competition, and versus, going the MSDI route and knowing that the graduate degree isn't needed in order to score highly for that program or to beat out the competition. That's just one angle. There's so many nuances to this. It's like hard for me to explain everything the right way, but and lots of personalized situations. I know I'm talking to a very general crowd right now, and I don't know everyone's specific situation. Like, for example, if you don't know yet if you want to get your master's degree, you should not go the MSDI route just because you don't have a master's degree right now. So just my disclaimer there. But anyways, moving on. DTR credential can look really good. I know for people that might have a low GPA, this is a great thing to do. It's something that you can't do until you finish your DPD courses. So it might not work timing wise if you're just like a senior and you're not done yet and you're applying. But if you have the time to do the DTR and then apply, that will look good and could help offset maybe a poor GPA because you're passing a credentialing exam with the DTR, the Dietary Tech registered exam, and you can show that you're competent and ready for an internship because a lot of the, almost all of the material will be the same as what you would find in an internship. And then well-rounded experiences are important. We talked about the top three: the foundational, the goal-oriented, and the leadership, or the goal area and the leadership. I put here shadowing does not count. I just want to make a disclaimer here that shadowing is great for your own exploration and research of what a dietitian does and all the different areas you can work in. But unless you have actual responsibilities with the dietitian, then I don't think it's very valuable. It doesn't show that you're capable of, going in and making an impact with an organization or using your critical thinking skills in certain ways. So if you were just sitting there like observing, again, valuable for your own personal growth, but not a selling point necessarily for internships. So when you're prioritizing what type of experience to get, you want to find places where you have the most responsibility and do those types of experiences when you can. Paid clinical experience is rare, but it's very, very valuable because it will be very similar to what it's like to be a dietetic intern in a clinical rotation. And for many internships, clinical is one of the bigger parts of the internship. So that would be good to have. If you don't have clinical, you might consider not applying to heavily clinical programs since you might not line up very well with that program. But yeah, that's a very general piece of advice. Depends on your whole story and the whole story of the program itself too, to know for sure. But all right, professional and community involvement. So getting involved in dietetic practice groups or local organizations, clubs on your campus, community, food bank, or other nonprofit organizations, even dietetics related or not. It just shows that you're willing to get out there and get involved in the profession and in your community. Leadership abilities. We talked about why leadership was important already, but it's so important, and you have to be able to show that with a story or with an example. And then strong diecast application. This is where the Get Match coaching comes in. This is where we take everything that you've done and we put it into a really, really strong diecast application from, the not only the actual application itself, like the personal statement, the resume, but also things like below here, the director communication. So how you're communicating to directors about yourself outside of the application. And then you want to have convincing references. So being able to coach certain references if needed on how to sell you and to give them background information on you so that they really can give a testimonial on you that shines and stands out. And then confident interview skills, which we also help with in the in Get Match coaching, that you get this far and then it's like the final test for getting ranked highly on a director's list is through that interview. And so we help you prepare for that and basically share a technique that works no matter what question they ask you, plus improve your confidence by doing mock interviewing and practicing together with your coach on that. But those bottom ones, it's sort of like you do all that hard work and then now you have to turn that into an application. You have to be able to take all of that and sell it to directors. And that really is the final, and most important thing that you need to be match worthy is the confidence to sell yourself. And I have this mantra that I share with students that they will come back and remind me that I told them this, which is pretty funny. So I'm telling you now. And it is because if you don't tell them, they will never know. If you don't tell directors how great of a leader you are, how confident, how ready and prepared you are to become a dietetic intern, how clearly passionate you are, the specific goals you have, the why this program is the perfect fit for you, what other skills you have and experiences you're going to bring and contribute to their internship. If you don't tell them all of that in a convincing way, in a confident way, they will never know. If you don't tell them about the awards you had, you don't tell them about the impact, the results you created, the lives that you changed, the amount of food that you collected for a food bank, if you don't tell them, they will never know those things. And that's the real secret to being match worthy, is being able to package up everything that you've done, all this hard work, and sell it to them, and to sell it better than your competition. Because again, you are competing for those spots. You have directors that are looking at, we'll say, 75 applications, and they need to rank their applicants one to whatever they want. They don't have to rank all 75, but they can rank, we'll say, 75 for now. And you need to rank high enough in that list to get matched there. And so by how you do that is with an application, because that's the only way that they know how to rank you, right? They don't know you personally unless they do, which that does happen. So you have that. There's another nuance to the story. But if they don't know you, the application is all you have. And so that's why you have to be confident in knowing how to sell yourself through that application. And that's why we exist. And that's why coaching, Get Match coaching exists, why our Get Match course exists, to teach you how to do this. All right, now time for a pep talk. Here's the pep talk. I've talked to thousands of dietetic students over the years. We've helped more than 1,500 students individually with their applications throughout the years. With the Get Match coaching, and then also with individual, like the Get Match course and our private Facebook group of our clients. And I can tell you that this is a very overwhelming process, but preparation is going to lead to confidence, and putting in the work to prepare yourself to do what needs to be done, to go above and beyond in these different steps of the process, is going to make you more confident as you go along. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that you are worthy of an internship spot. We work with a lot of students that do come in with low confidence or think that there's no way they can be matched. And we have to fix that mindset pretty early on in order to make sure that they're successful. So you have to believe that you're worthy of this spot and that you've done the hard work and it is enough, because that's the third thing. Yes, it's a competition. Yes, there's always more you can do, but I've kind of laid out, and we share in other resources on All Access Dietetics, like, here's the things that it takes to become match worthy, right? And like, if you do those and then you put together a really strong application, you will get matched. If we think that you are not match worthy, we wouldn't work with you as a client, or we would suggest that you advise, or we'd advise you on taking some other steps to become more match worthy. But if you do those basic things and you learn about the process and you use all the resources available to you that you can use, then you can get matched. That is a fact. And so I want to also take the pressure off of you, even though I realize that I think everyone can benefit from getting help and getting or get match coaching or get match course. I think that, you also have to take the pressure off of yourself and know that you are doing a lot of things right. And if you just put in the time and the effort, it will work out, and believe that you can do it. It can happen. So that's the pep talk. I know it's stressful. Like I said, it's overwhelming, but you have these resources available to you. You just have to use them and believe that you can do it. All right. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. You can email me directly at jenny@allaccessdietetics.com if you have any questions. If you haven't already, you can schedule a 15-minute free coaching call with me and talk through your game plan for getting matched and getting experience and networking and doing all the things that you need to do to prepare to become a future dietitian. So I'm absolutely here to help. I love, love, love talking to students across the country. I learn a lot from you guys. I learn a lot of tips and then can pass them on to more students. So please don't be shy. Schedule a call with me, and no strings attached. Just would love to help you and give you my best advice for your unique situation. And then also check out our website, allaccessdietetics.com. We have so many things on there to offer: webinars and newsletters and free resources, the Dietetic Internships Toolkit. It's all here to help you through your journey to become a dietitian, because once you get there, I can tell you it's so exciting. It's a great career. I love doing what I do within sports dietetics, and then obviously love what I do helping future dietitians. Really excited for the future of our profession, and just seeing how it grows and continues to be more and more limitless. So I'm excited for you, and thanks again for listening. Again, if you have any questions, email me anytime. Let's chat. That's it. Good luck, everyone, and hope to talk to you soon.